Hello, I want to talk to you about what is probably my favorite album of all time. It's historically been my favorite. I've probably listened to it maybe not the most anymore, but certainly on a single physical form. Failure's Fantastic Planet is just it. Nothing comes close. Part of that is just it came about in the right time in my life. I was developing a sense of the music that appealed to me as me coming out of, well, there's nothing wrong with liking any of this stuff, just it was, it's like in high school I had liked the popular stuff of the day, like Linkin Park or, mostly them, and they're fine. I still like the songs I liked, but my brother got me 13th Step by A Perfect Circle for my birthday, the year it came out, and that introduced me to A Perfect Circle, obviously, and by natural extension it introduced me to Tool, both of which are bands who I still enjoy, but I like to dig into the Dwarf Fortress. But no, I like to dig into things and I like to obsess. And on 13th Step was a song called Nurse Who Loved Me, and the writing credit was different. Like, who are these people? Why are they here? And that led me to Failure, which honestly changed my life and helped define what I like from my music to this day. I like the weird spacey sounds. I like we all like writing that appeals to us, but so that's probably not an enormously meaningful thing to say, but it spoke to me, and it was an early to me example of the thing I most like in physical media, and that is when a compilation of smaller works of art, like a music album or a short story collection, when the whole has value in and of itself beyond just being the collection of the smaller pieces it contains. To go back to Linkin Park, like Hybrid Theory, I like most of the songs on the album. I think that for the time it was a great album, and I would still defend it for what it is, but there was no, at least to me, there was no greater anything to it, whereas Fantastic Planet it's a whole package. The first and the last sounds you hear are the same. It's meant to be seen as like this unified whole that appeals to me. And it's got 3 singing tracks, so it's kind of got even 4 parts or 4 movements or 4. And if I was younger, if this was still when I was in university, and this was still the thing I listened to the most, I would have deep theories on the meanings of each of those and why things were put in one rather than the other. But I'm not in my teens anymore. I'm in my 30s. So the only ones I remember is the 4th. Yeah. The only thing I remember is the 4th and final. That is led into by Seg 3, and I think that's the most I think it's beautiful. I'm really glad Failure as a band has continued to embrace the numbered segs, so I can still refer to them accurately, but has included them because they're fun bits of weird jazzy rock music, and especially here it's of the 90s and couldn't have been made any other time, but it's not painfully so, at least to me. But then after that we have that one, well, If the Nurse Who Loved Me, that one song that got me into this band, and it's a peaceful lullaby when a Perfect Circle do it, and it is a journey into an intense, chaotic kind of madness here. And the song mirrors the section of the album, because as the song goes on, it's from this peaceful, almost not acoustic, but really kind of unadorned, to a thing where it's like you're almost playing feedback of feedback of feedback as an instrument on its own, separate from those other levels of feedback. And it's magnificent. It blows my mind every time, but that's something. I have to keep looking. I have to keep looking at it because I don't remember the names of the songs, because it's been so long since I held the physical album in my hand. I had to dig it out of my CD rack. The next song is another Space song, which, as the title indicates, it owes some of its DNA to like David Bowie's Space Oddity, because it's really spacey, and I think it's trying to make the same allegories between space and addiction and drugs. And again, it's just beautiful. I have a cover of it that's really, so those bands that were more around like 10 years ago than now, but that did a really like 80s synth sound. One of them covered it, really, really dreamy, not dream pop, but really like a dreamy poppy sound, and I really like it, but I can't. I heard it on YouTube a few times 10 years ago, and I don't know what the band is. I can't find it for you because I don't know it. I just know it exists. And then there's Stuck on You, and Stuck on You at first glance, this is the kind of thing that makes like a 19-year-old like, whoa. But Stuck on You appears to be just a song about, well, infatuation or love or obsession, and it is, but it's burying it's using all of those emotional and like musical shorthands, but the song is, I think, primarily about those catchy pop songs you can't get out of your head, and it's not comparing them to an abusive relationship, but it's comparing them to just, I don't know, those kind of relationships you have where it's not good, but you still want it, or it's not the most fulfilling, but you still want it. And honestly, because of who was writing and performing it, it's probably also a bit of a drug analogy, but I've never done anything more hard than marijuana, so I wouldn't know. Okay, now it starts to get weird because Heliotropic is heavy. It's still like a 90s alt rock, but it's heavy, and it feels dirty. Like Stuck on You was clean. It wasn't. There were still distortion effects, but they didn't feel as muddy. And Heliotropic, ironically, feels like down in the dirt more than any other song on the album. And it is, as I said, I've said the word heavy like 6 or 7 times now because it is heavy, but it is just so intensely psychedelic and unyielding. I'm getting the chills just thinking about it. It works for me. But I had a friend in university who dug a lot of the songs, especially in this section. Like this is the entire album is good, and I don't want to sell short the rest of the songs, but I don't listen to them as much. And he found like The Nurse Who Loved Me to be really pleasant, but turned it down towards the end because there was just chaos, and he had no interest in this song. I turn up the end of The Nurse Who Loved Me because I think it's transcendent. And then here's kind of the reason why I brought this album today, and it's the one to illustrate an album is more than just a compilation of interesting or good songs. It starts off slow, and it starts off with that. It's a ratcheting sound that the album starts with, and that this song also finishes with, which makes it kind of like the song itself is a repetition of the whole. There's no title track on this album, but this one feels like, not that it should be, but if there was a track that captured the emotional whole of the work, I think it's this one. It starts off slow, and it builds, and at first it's just that ratcheting sound, and then they bring in some other, again, they're not acoustic sounds, but they're not heavily processed. And then as they just, I think every verse they bring in a few more until they're done with verses, and it's just time for choruses the rest of the way through. I think I repeated 2 more times, and it just gets, it's a more, if the end of The Nurse Who Loved Me is a uncontrolled outpouring of intensity, what you get in Daylight is, it's controlled. It's expertly controlled. It's like they're just surfing on the edge of that chaos that we know that we know they can pull off, or I think they can pull off, and they're just holding it there, and it's phenomenal. And then it also builds as a song must. Some minimal stuff doesn't, some experimental stuff doesn't. That's true. We'll get there someday. But it built, like, it just, they finished their final go through the chorus, and in my mind, like, I know they're playing other instruments, but really all I hear is playing the guitar and the feedbacky distortion of the guitar as one soaring instrument, as one just, it's the highest musical high for me, just the highest. And then it comes down, and thankfully it comes down pretty gentle, and you're just left with the ratcheting and wanting more. And because the ratcheting leads you right back into square one, well, you're like somebody getting their fix. And I think that's what they were trying to do. They're trying to do something like that. But that's what I get from it. And that's why I love it. Because it's so emotionally powerful to me. That's just like, what are you going to do, right? Just, that's it. And that's how I like an album. That's not the only way to end an album. Just, it is a way I like to end an album on just like a perfect high. Just capture the feeling of it. Make it a perfect high. Not the best song on the album. It's not the best song by far. Not the most musically interesting either. It's just, there is a niche on an album. And that's the last song. And maybe for me at least, if you're doing a certain kind of thing, you want to write a song to be the last one. Thank you for joining me. We've been talking about Failure's Fantastic Planet. That wonderful album from 1996. If you have, if you know somebody who has it on vinyl who might be willing to part with it, I'm missing it from my collection. But thank you for joining me.